determined that they were not going to allow their costs to go up when the petroleum did. Rubbermaid needed an additional cost to cover the cost of petroleum. Walmart refused to allow for an increase in price. Rubbermaid went out of business. Worcester had a thriving plant there. It's gone. Now, may have gone somewhere else, but in the net result is that the people in Worcester are now having to find other ways to find work. And it's important to understand that our nation depends upon industry and effort of its people to survive. We don't have a situation where everybody just sits back and gets paid. And one thing that we have as a problem with that is that there's an awful lot of programs that pay people without working. But there's even worse problem. If you have a job and it comes to a point where you are on unemployment and security, and say you're getting $6, the equivalent of $6 an hour on unemployment, and you have a job opening at $5 an hour, if you take that job at $5 an hour, your unemployment stops. So you are cut that back by $1 an hour simply by trying to work. I know of a person who had a Section 8 housing. She decided that instead of cleaning people's houses, she'd go to work in a department store and she got a job. She went. This is a long time ago, but she went from $2 an hour cleaning houses to $3 an hour in the department store. She had to report that income to her Section 8 department. They determined that she was no longer eligible and she was going to have to move. She quit the new job, went back to the cleaning houses just so she could remain in her home. And there's a third case that I know of. The man was on welfare. Someone gave him a loom and taught him how to make rugs. He made 5 rugs. They were excellent rugs, and they sold rather handily. But the next time the man who had given him the loom came back, the loom was sitting in the corner of the room with a cover over it. It seems that his welfare officer had taken the dollar amount he had received for those rugs, regardless of the fact that the yarn had to be bought and that he had to have time on it, and deducted that from his welfare. In all 3 cases, the people on welfare were penalized for trying to go back to work. Now, in a case like that, we get a statement that Americans don't want to work. Well, why would you? Then, in turn, we find that people in Mexico have no place to get work. I went through a town in Mexico a little while back. There were 2 men sitting on the porch. There was not a blade of grass in the whole village. I saw some cattle there that I could see every bone in their body. The burros were a little bit better off, but the cattle were really bad. And the only 2 people left in the town were simply there idling on the porch. I thought those men needed to go somewhere to get work, and then I thought, where will they go? Well, they go to Mexico City, and there are no jobs left in Mexico City because they already have so many people. Or they go to the United States. These people are willing to work because they can't get money any other way. Mexico recently instituted a Social Security program. They are taxing the manufacturer for Social Security, but the money is not getting back to the villages. We need to encourage the Mexicans to allow their Social Security to get back to the villages so that there can be some industry within the villages. The next problem is that we have people who come into the United States who choose to do so the child can be born American United States citizen. To take care of this, we need a constitutional amendment redefining citizenship from what it says in the 13th or 14th Amendment. Every person born or naturalized in the United States is a citizen of the United States and the state of which he resides. It should read, every person born of a citizen parentage should be a citizen of the United States. That means that the person became a citizen because of his parentage. Now, in turn, with that, we should be allowed to have what I would call a guest worker system. And they would be matched at the border between the farmer or the employer and the person who needs the work. At this point, the agency involved would need to get DNA and fingerprint samples. We had a man not long ago who was an illegal alien who jumped on trains, went from town to town, and when he saw a woman on the side of the road by herself, jumped off the train, and we had a murdered woman. This went on for several years. They finally found the man, and he's now in prison. It would have been very much better had we had DNA evidence that this is the man. And as far as terrorists are concerned, if they come in the way in which they have DNA and fingerprint samples on file, we are able to be more clear as to identifying them as terrorists. So we have an immigration program that needs fixing, but it is not one program. It is a number of things that need to be fixed. Now, we have Social Security. Some of you have received my book in the mail a while back. And in it, there's a description of how Social Security works for the good of the economy rather than for the good of the retiree. We need to maintain that for both reasons, because without it, we will go back to the boom and bust days when all the money was earned, and then all the money was spent, and then there was nothing with which to buy again. Social Security has evened that out over the years, and for over 50 years, we have had a stable economy without any major depressions. Banks should not be allowed to develop loans by fraud. Let's change the subject a moment into a different subject. Banks should not be allowed to originate loans by fraud. If you have a situation where a broker allows a person to tell him that he has earned what he has earned without verifying somehow that he has the income, it's fraud, because there's no way that broker could guarantee that the man could repay it. And it's very easy to avoid a situation and come up with a situation where a person tells you that he has $10,000 a month when he's actually unemployed. To go all through all of the work of getting the loan, getting it up, getting everything ready, and then the man goes into default and gets foreclosed. It's a major reason that we have had is that kind of fraud.